this. So as we know, around about 80% or more of websites around the world are now encrypted using HTTPS. So the connection is made from my local machine to that web server. It essentially creates a basic VPN. And so other than reading the start of the packet header and being able to see that it went to facebook.com, for example, once that has happened, I can no longer see what's in there. I can no longer tell if you're clicking a link. I can no longer tell if there was malware inside there, downloading something that was potentially compromised. So really, we want to be able to have a look inside that. Now, the only way we can do that is what is called a man-in-the-middle attack. All right. There is an acronym for it. You can probably work that out, but my dyslexia will get them all muddled up, so let's not worry about that. So man-in-the-middle attack means this. What we're going to do is we're going to interject a firewall, or in this instance, our EFG, and our EFG is going to intercept the traffic. The only way it's going to be able to intercept that traffic is by breaking the HTTPS tunnel. Now, when we break that HTTPS tunnel, we can now see inside it, and then the firewall can look at the other traffic that's going on. But that doesn't give a great experience for the user that is actually going to be going to a website. So let's step this through as we go along. So our first point in this is we are going to turn this to simple mode, because that's probably the easiest way to actually get this functioning. This is going to be your main item that you need. This is your SSL certificate. Now, some of the other vendors have a portal that you can go to, which makes it a little bit easier for your users. They can go to the IP address of the firewall : a certain port number and download this. This needs to be installed on everything. So our first point of call and our issue that we're going to have is that we don't want this to be put, or can't put this often in some Internet of Things. For instance, you can't put this certificate on a smart light bulb. So that means if it's using HTTPS to call back to its control system, it will stop being able to connect to the internet. So there are some things to think around there. This is quite an invasive, doesn't matter which firewall vendor you do it, there is no way around this. This is an invasive step. All right, so you want to think very carefully about what it is. And this probably drives us to a bit of segmentation. It is a little bit short in its comings here, where before we would be able to write rules around it. I'm pretty sure that if we, for other vendors, for instance, we'd be able to create a internet out rule. So if we check and do an internet out rule, that we might be able to avoid let's have a look, source port group, destination. So you might be able to get round it if it was, and you actually created a specific port group for maybe 443, and then into this source group or IP address, you actually had to put in the IP addresses of all of the devices that you wanted to stop, or you create an address group here. Let's just see if that allows us to do it, whether we can create an address group. So the address group actually has to be physical IP addresses. So this probably is a slight shortfalling for me in where the EFG is at the moment. That, and somebody else go, oh, I can do it this way around. Great, help me. We can grow this and learn this together. But generally, most of the mainstream firewall vendors have ways of blocking out specific IPs, so they aren't enforced from this. We can choose specific, but it's all networks, but it is all generally based around a VLAN at the moment. So you might want to think about separating your Internet of Things out onto different VLANs if you weren't going to enforce this. So I'm just going to put this onto VLAN 37, all traffic types. So this will only inspect these 4 protocols. There are other vendors out there that do everything. So as if it's encrypted, they'll look inside it. This follows more of the Fortinet model where we're just doing specific known protocols. And that does affect performance, and it does increase performance. Inspected domains, we're inspecting all of them, but for instance, if you were doing this in a corporate environment, you might want to take away NAB or Combank or something else like that, so you're actually not looking at the content inside there. Otherwise, potentially, you can see some of the actual information with inside there of credit card details or login details that you maybe shouldn't be keeping. At this point, what do you want to do? You can just track it. This is for extra actions within inside this. So we've got options here for queries, which I'll show you how it works in a minute. But at the moment, we're not doing any extra actions. We just want this to work. Insecure certificate, you could put high risk. Untrusted certificate, there's a lot of those out there, so you might not want to choose that. So this is our starting point. Like I said, you will need to have downloaded this certificate. Let's just hop on over quickly to that test server. I've got two pages open in two different web browsers. All right, this one here, Firefox and Chromium. As you can see here, both show me that it is totally secure. All right, everything is protected. And I think if we have a look in the certificates, I can't remember, no, yeah, more information, we can see this one is issued by Google, the same over here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to apply this to VLAN 37. It's going to remind me I need to go and get this certificate to download. It wants me to actually go and do something with that. So let's just grab that. There we go. Oh. I think I just needed to tell it that I had done it, and then it allows me to proceed, and this is now activated. So everybody goes, well, that's easy, that's all I needed to do. Well, let's have a little look and see, because I think my little test box will drop offline for a moment, and we'll probably need to reconnect. So just give me a moment. We might need to just jump on the server and actually do it from there, because again, the test environment that this is in is also using an SSL certificate. That's okay, here we go. All right, so it's come back to life. Let's let this drop back into place. Hopefully we can connect to it in a moment. Let's just try again. It might be a little bit grumpy. If it's a little bit grumpy, let's just go and grab the one that's here. All right, so let's just do it on here. So here is our one now. Now immediately we get this issue. All right, it's actually suggesting that something isn't going on well with this. And if we can actually see this, this actually says it's an MITM. So there's the acronym for you. All right, it is a man in the middle attack. So what is happening is the firewall, and I'll just get it on a bigger screen here for you. The firewall is now intercepting this, but Google and other websites are going, hey, hang on a minute, something is going on here that shouldn't be going on. Some will allow you to accept this and go on, others won't. If we try and look at the certificate of what's actually going on in here and have a look at more information, again, Google is still trying to issue it, but we haven't allowed ourselves to go here. So we can't actually at the moment go there. And if we look at this, we can see it's the Ubiquiti certificate. Why? Because this is being provided by the EFG. Now on this side, I've installed the certificate. So I downloaded the certificate and actually installed it. So if we now refresh it to the Google page on here, we don't see actually anything different, but we do if we investigate just very slightly more into this. So if we actually have a look at the certificate that's valid, we see it's been issued from Google, but it's actually been the authority stamped by Ubiquiti. So what this means is, as far as the devices are concerned, they have got a full, pure point or end-to-end encryption happening. But what's actually happened is that the device is now encrypted to the EFG. The EFG is unencrypting it or de-encrypting it, whichever way that is, and then re-encrypting it, and then it's making a connection from the EFG to the destined website. That now means we can actually see inside this and get some feel for what's actually going on. So that is a very simple setup, but as you can see, the key there is now we've got devices that we maybe can't put certificates on. So you're going to need to think ahead of a way around that, either moving them onto separate VLANs or figure an alternative way around. So if we come back to our dashboard now and we start to look around in our inspection, then we should start to be able to see everything that's going on now. Everything that was encrypted from that computer, we didn't realize this much was going on, was actually happening. And now we can actually have a look and see. And we got all those same options for blocking that were there before. it also, was it in a risk? No, it wasn't. What computer has done it? And so now we start to see a very simple but easy amount of extra information going on inside here. Again, it will open up what we see in our intrusions as well. So now what I want to show you is what we can do a little bit more with this as the next step, and then we should be able to go on to compare it with some of the other vendors that are out there. Okay, so the next step is, what can we do now we can see inside this? And we can actually do, obviously, now some filtering. We can also do some blocking of what's going on there. So we can now start to create simple rules. So at the moment we just did this as one simple rule. Maybe we want to actually start to create inspection profiles and actually create those the same as we've seen, but we can create groupings of these. So we can create target networks in here as our VLANs and specific target types. So it's the same options that we had before, but we could create different policies for each of them. We'll stick at simple because I can just show you this next bit that's going on here. So we're going to create an action. We've got queries, blocked file types, and blocked URLs. What do we want to do? We want to track it, or do we want to track and block it? So let's do a query. So example, search query. Are the tech geeks? Let's do this. All right, just to make sure we don't query and get it confused with anything else, let's grab that. Test query monitor. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go back to our, we've got to apply our changes. Probably means that my test box will now drop offline, maybe, hopefully not. It has. Yeah, there we go. So every time we do some of these changes, it rebuilds itself very, very quickly, which is a little bit frustrating if you're doing a remote session. But let's just see. You'll see that a few times, and it does take a little bit for it to come back. I'll give it that. Every device that's based on an operating system potentially has to rebuild its rules, and I am doing this as a remote session. So we'll just hop back over to this box here, and we're going to use the one that's actually got the certificate in it, because we don't have any reason, we're using this as a certificate based one. So let's put, are the Geeks the best Ubiquiti supplier? All right, and it's going to give you a whole bunch of other options in there, all right, and what people think. If we now go back into our insights and our inspections, I think it's our inspections and our queries, all right, if I've written that, now you can see I've actually been able to see that a user typed that information in and it did a query. And I was able to record that information. So maybe you've got keywords that you're looking for. Maybe this is in a setup in a a work environment, and you're trying to monitor for people looking for other jobs or whatever. That's how you can now look inside those packets of information. So let's now build it a little bit further and go, well, okay, we did that with it. What could we actually now do again? Now we could actually change this to be a block. So let's track and block that and apply it. So we're obviously going to go back to here again. Just give it a moment to apply it, and let's try and see if we can do that search again. Immediately, I cannot go there because it has now been intercepted as a block. So following that same scenario, we could have created another rule that was to block a specific file type. There's a lot of different file types generated there. Block a specific URL or a category. So this becomes a little bit better here. We didn't see many categories when we did this in HTTP, because again, a lot of those were probably going to be limited because they'd move on to HTTPS. So now we've moved into this. Now it starts to become a much more useful solution. So yes, we didn't get a lot in our basic when we're not using SSL inspection, but now we're using SSL inspection. Now I can create something in here. So this is my default work replace content filtering. So now immediately I can go, okay, well I actually want, what do I actually, default content filtering, can't be more than 32 characters, brilliant. So maybe I want adult, maybe I want to block gambling, games, probably not that one. Maybe I do jobs and careers. Let's have a little look on here, search engines. So we've not got a huge number of options in here. We haven't got anti-hacking or hacking and other bits and pieces along those lines. They don't go down into subcategories, but maybe we do e-commerce and shopping. We can build something in here that's a start, and maybe we'll get more of these in due course. So I have now built my content filtering block list, and so if I now apply that, I can now again block with the same block that you would have got on here. If I've tried to go to a shopping website, it's going to actually stop us loading that page. So now becomes much more useful because we can use the inspector here in inspection to actually start to see our queries. We can see everything that was in here. We can see that we actually now have blocked it. But even on our allow ones, we do have those options in again to block destination domain name if we wanted to. So we could have blocked all the traffic to it and created a rule around it. All right, Google is now blocked as a whole, and we'd need to come back to our security and our firewall rules, and we'll find that Google is now blocked and you can't get to Google whatever you want to do. So let's just have a little look, and let's just try and even just get to google.com. All right, and we can see there again we've just got a restricted page. It's trying to load, but nothing's actually going to happen because it is blocked. Obviously we want to get rid of those two there, so we can just manage these and actually remove them there. Head on over to our YouTube channel, we've got plenty more videos over there. Subscribe and stay up to date.